Tech Talk Live, y'all. Number 152. Number 152. Hey, Chuck, number one today. Yes, you are. Y'all come on in. Let's talk. I got some good numbers to tell you guys. Hey, Charlie, thank you for checking back in. Charlie, Greg, thank you all. Appreciate you. This is going to be a lot of fun. Charlie, Greg, yep, thank y'all. Yep, this is Tuesday, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. We're calling it Nash Vegas, calling it NASCAR. It's been hot, it's been cool, it's been nice. Julie and Tyler and I went to the NASCAR race over here Sunday, and it was awesome. We got rained out, went home, watched TV. They came back on, went back. Julie and Tyler went back and watched the race, and I watched it on TV. It was fun. It was great. I mean, it was good. It was hot, but the crowd was awesome. And anytime motorsports does good, NHRA, NASCAR, IndyCar, ADRL, PDRL, XXX, PDRA, Midwestern Motorsports, Mod, Pro Mods, all those cool. I just love racing, love motorsports. So when it does good, I'm happy. And I saw we had a good crowd over at Norwalk too. A couple shout outs every week. All of us that watch Facebook here, we see the heroes and our icons that we lost, like Bruton Smith, you know, after all these, I think he was 95 years old. He was a great showman, and he built a lot of racetracks and helped a lot of guys. And then, of course, Bill Bader Sr. Last time I saw Bill from Norwalk, Ohio, he always remembered my name. He always remembered Jackie's name. I mean, good grief. You see the guy once every few years, and he says, "Hey, George, how's it going? How's the family? How's Jackie?" And when somebody, you know, that's pretty far up, like the guys at NHRA, I know everybody's not proud of NHRA, but I am. What a tough road it is to go through. But there's some guys, you know, in that still, when you show up after 5 years, they still know who you are, and they still call you by name, and it just makes an impact on you when I see you and I know you, and and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But real quick, before we get into the tech talk, Scott, Stephen, Jeff, Greg, I just want to tell you all how proud I am of my ex-teammate, Angel. She has won 3 championships. She won on our team. She had her 46th win this weekend on the Vance and Hines Suzuki. I'm as you know, most of y'all know how much I appreciate the effort and the amount of resources and opportunities and advancement that Vance and Hines has done to our pro stock motorcycle category. But I'm not as big a fan of the team as I am of their driver, Angel. She and I met when we were young. I think she was 25 when she came to the school the first time. But anyway, she won her 46th race. So her and Erica Enders are having a race to the first of 50 for females to win in NHRA. I also want to say, and please don't take it the wrong way, but I am so proud of Angel because she has won all of her championships and all of her Wileys and all of her big gold men that you win at the NHRA races on motorcycles that you can own and you can buy and you can drive. She's on a Suzuki. And when she won on the V-Twins on our team, it was a S&S powered Buell that everybody was buying and everybody had for sale. And the 2 people that have more Wileys than her in Pro Stock Motorcycle have, best I know, have only won them on bikes you can't buy, bikes you can't own. So in my world, they have a little asterisk by how many wins they had. They had 50 wins, 60 wins, whatever they had. They were on unobtainable motorcycles that you can't have, I can't have. I tried to buy one forever. Many Harley dealers tried to buy one forever, but now they're all on Suzuki. So I'm not starting a fight. I'm just saying I'm really proud of her because she won all those races, not as a woman, not as a female, but a champion. There is no gender on that motorcycle when she races. Go to Erica Enders, for instance. Erica Enders in that pro stock car. There is no gender in that car. That is just a serious competitor. She wants to win. Angel and Erica both have this determination that's pretty much unseen in our lifetime. last thing is Angel just eclipsed the late great Dave Schultz's win record. He had 45 national event wins, and so when she won 46 this weekend, that made her the most winning person in NHRA on publicly available motorcycles. So I give her credit for having 46 wins on motorcycles that you can have and I can have to race. So kudos to her for that. I'll be a fan for the rest of my life because I met her when she wanted to be a motorcycle racer. I met her when she wanted to be racing pro stock motorcycle, and now she is the top of pro stock motorcycle racing. Is there other people out there going good? Yes, of course there are, but I'm proud. So I'm off of that. Tech Talk 152. This is a great day for us. We're only 4 weeks away from 3 years doing this every week, and I'm thankful for you guys clicking in. And we're going to go technical now. I want to go down to the board and show you what I'm going to talk about today. It's going to be rocker arm ratios. It's going to be lobe lift, cam lift, and I'm going to use examples of some of the engines that we have worked on in our career and let you see some examples from small and mild to wild. But this will mean something to all of y'all, and the cam cards we get. Everybody gets a cam card. If you don't, I guess it's my fault because I haven't been giving out cam cards with the cams we sell, but I give you the information you need to make them really run great, and the installers do a good job of that too. But I want to explain what the information on the cam card means so that you will have more experience and more knowledge when you talk about it rather than just repeating what you see on the internet. Let's let you get in to understand from the bottom up. So I'm going to lower the camera, and I'm going to flip it over to the board. I'm going to let you see that it is Tech Talk Tuesday number 152. That's a big hooray for all of us to be able to pull that off. Yep, we'll do that one day, Chris, about injector timing. It is something that uses up a lot of brain space and doesn't really make much horsepower, but that's something we can talk about one day. I drew a little picture here of a base circle. Let me get it on the screen for you. Just so you know that when people talk about the base circle of a cam, that is the circle of the shaft of the cam. And when you buy a blank, the camshaft looks like this, and the CNC grinder has to machine all this away to make it into this lobe. If you're really lucky, you can buy some spools from the cam core builder that has a rough lobe already done on it, so you don't have to throw as much material in the trash can when you build the lobe. But this is what the lobe looks like. It is base circle, where you open the valve, where you close the valve, and then the lift this is the lobe lift. It starts at the center of the cam, and it goes to where the highest lobe is. I'm going to give you an example. This is a sheet from the data off of our Star Racing 3/4 cam. We've all laughed in our career talking about when a car comes by at the drive-in and it's got the cam chop and the lobe to it, where it's going cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. And I know y'all all like me, we love sound effects. But we always called it, that must be a 3/4 cam. That couldn't be a full race cam because he couldn't drive it on the street, but it must be almost a full race, so we call it a 3/4 race. The timing numbers are at 50 lift. That means when the valve comes off the seat and it gets to 50 thou, that's where we start taking timing numbers. And if you'll notice on the sheet, it says the intake is 10 and 42. It opens at 10, it closes at 42, at 50 lift. That's what all these timing numbers are based off, 50 lift. So let's look at the lobe again. This is the base circle, so there is no lift when the cam rotates from here to here. There's no lift. The valve is sitting on the seat and the roller sitting on the back side of this lobe. When the lobe comes around and hits the roller of the lifter, when it gets 50 off the seat right here, the valve starts to open. So we would call that 10 degrees after, 10 degrees before top dead center. That would be when the intake valve would open. Now, we go to full lift. That's the lobe center. And then when we go to 50 before closing, that would be the close of the valve. So this, we call this the close, and we call this the open. Now let's look at the data beside it. Intake opens at 10. Intake closes at 42. The center line's 106. That means the valve is at full lift at 106 after top. And on the exhaust lobe, the exhaust valve opens at 64 before bottom, and it closes 10 after top. And that center line where the cam is at full lift is 117 lobe center. Lobe center is halfway between the opening and the close. How do you get that number? Basic info, but it's really good to know, especially if you are a shopper for a cam and you would like to have conversations and talk about camshafts in a more education way or a more experienced way. So let's take these numbers off of the sheet and let's just do this lobe center. Let's do 10. I guess you have to turn it on first. Yep, this is the old AARP for us old folks calculator. It's got big buttons, big screen, so we all can see it. Let's open the valve at 10. Let's plus closing the valve at 42, plus 180 degrees of intake stroke equals 232 degrees duration. That intake lobe has 232. Okay, if you want to find the lobe center, and please just hang tight and let's make sure I can do this right. I'm going to divide 232 by 2, and that's going to give me 116, and I'm going to subtract the opening from it, minus 10 equals 106. So that gives us a 106 lobe center. Okay? Exhaust, 64 plus 10. 64 open before bottom, 10 degrees after top, the exhaust valve. So let's do the math. 64 plus 10 plus 180 of exhaust stroke gives us 254 degrees duration. 254 degrees duration. The lobe center says it's 117. Let's check it. 254 divided by 2 equals 127 minus 10 of the closing. 127 minus 10. 117 is the lobe separation. Lobe center. And then the word that's not very useful to me and a lot of people that are camshaft educators that are on the internet talking about lobe separation. We don't really get into that much, but I'm going to show you how to do it. You can, if you want the lobe separation between the intake and exhaust, you would do 106 plus 117 equals 223 divided by 2 equals a 111.5 lobe separation angle. 106 on the intake, 117 on the exhaust, and the two added together divided by 2 equals a lobe separation. So I see a couple few cool comments rolling across my screen, rolling up here, and I can see them, but I'm focusing on what I'm saying so I don't get tongue-tied and start giving you some bogus information. So when the presentation is over, I'll spend a minute and tell you about, I'll respond. But let's go right here. This is a very important number. If you look all over this sheet, that the specs that I've been given with this 3/4 cam, there is no lift anywhere on here. And it's because I don't know what the lift is going to be until I know what your rock arm ratio is. And today I understand you can buy only 2 rock arms for the Milwaukee 8. Let's get this off of this screen. There you go. I think the stock one is near 160. It might be 161, but it's somewhere near 1.60 rocker ratio, and I'll explain that. S&S sells a roller rocker that is 1.64 ratio. Now, a lot of folks don't know that it's different when you buy the S&S roller rocker, but you're putting in a ton more lift because you're adding more ratio. And the reason that makes a difference is if you'll look right here. We'll do this math again. I hope you can see my calculator. ARP calculator. I love to try to keep the glare off of it, but if you'll look, it says lobe lift is 365. So let's go and let's take the lobe lift of 365 times a stock ratio of 1.60. 1.60 equals. It says 584. We sell it as a 585. It's probably got just a teeny bit more than 160. I'm going to say the stock rocker ratio is 1.61 times lobe lift of 365 equals 587. So it's somewhere near 1.60. Here's the scary part, though, folks. If you wanted a 585 and you buy this camshaft with this 365 lobe lift, and then you buy a set of S&S roller rockers, check this out. Get this lobe lift of 3.65 times 1.64. 1.64 equals. You have now just put yourself a 598 camshaft into your engine. 598 lift. So that's why this does not have a lift to it other than the lobe lift. I can sell you a lobe on an M8 camshaft, and it has this much lift on it, which is 365. If you put a 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, whatever rocker you put on it will be the lift at the valve. This is the lobe lift. One guy sent me an email the other day and he said, I don't understand. I was supposed to buy a 385 from you and you sent me a 365. And he said, it says that the lift is 365. And I'm like, uh-oh, I just gave somebody too much information. So they were upset with me because they wanted to buy a 585. So I said, okay, if you put stock rockers in it, you're going to be a 585. And if you put an S&S rocker, you're going to be a 598. Does that make sense, y'all? That makes sense. Okay. Now, look at this one. This one's really crazy. Valve lift at TDC. That means when the piston's sitting at the top on the overlap and you got the intake valve open and the exhaust valve open, the intake is open 0.128 and the exhaust valve is open 0.123. That's over 1/8 of an inch off the seat. Both of them off the seat with the piston sitting at the top on overlap. That's where valve pockets in your pistons matter. If you have a stock piston that has, just looks like somebody clipped a toenail where the exhaust valves go and clipped a toenail where the intake valves go, that's just teeny weeny little bit of clearance so you can put a little bit of lobe lift, valve lift at TDC. Notice this says valve lift. This says lobe lift, and whenever you get a cam card from anybody, please read this stuff, and after watching Tech Talk Tuesday number 152, you should be able to understand this better. This is the name of the cam. This is the timing numbers at 50, which is 10 and 42, and 64 and 10, and the lobe lift is 365. But look at where it says valve lift TDC at 128. Let's try that one time. TDC valve lift. 0.128 divided by, I'm going to try this because I haven't done this, and I am live, y'all. 128 divided by 1.60 equals 0.80. That is 0.80 lobe lift. 0.080 lobe lift. You understand now? That was using valve lift, which I divided the rocker ratio into 128, and I got lobe lift. So let's take this 0.80 lobe lift, and let's put the S&S rocker in it. 0.080 times 1.64 S&S roller rocker ratio, and now you got a 131 TDC lift. Can you read this, y'all? That 128 lobe lift, 128 valve lift at TDC went to from 128 with a stock rocker to 131 with the S&S rocker. I hope you can understand that. Paul asked a great question about overhead valves with shims. That's another story, and that does all matter, but rocker ratio doesn't. It's called a type 1 direct acting, where whatever the lobe gives you to the valve, because this camshaft is sitting on a bucket and the valve is connected to the bottom of the bucket, and when this lobe comes around with 365 lobe lift, then it's still going to be 365 valve lift. It's direct acting. Then they have finger followers They have all kind of cool rocker ratios, like a GS 1100 where it has a variable ratio rocker pad. There's so many different ones, but I'm trying to keep it simple to help us learn this terminology. Now let's go to a full race cam. We sell a full race cam at Star Racing. And I promise you this looks a little bit to my competitors like a cam commercial, but I want you guys to understand what these mean when you buy anybody's cam. If I don't care if you buy comp cams, wood cam, crane cam, it doesn't matter. This is the name, Star Full Race. I never really tell anybody it's a 615. I kind of do because that's what it is with a stock ratio. But it says timing at 50. That means when the valve is 50 thou off the seat, the intake valve opens at 20 before top dead center. The intake valve closes at 52 after bottom dead center. And if you add these two together and add 180 for the stroke, intake stroke, you get 252 degrees duration. With me? You guys? Everybody there? Okay. Lobe lift is 385, whereas our 30-30, nope, I'll do that later. Our 3/4 was 365 lobe lift. This full race cam is 385 lobe lift. 0.385 times 1.6 equals, that's a 616 camshaft. That's what I sell everybody, 616, 615, 616. Let's take that camshaft, and I said it was 0.385 lift. 0.385 lift times the S&S roller rocker ratio of 1.64 equals. That is now a 631 cam. I got to do that again. That seems a little bogus. 385 lobe lift, 0.385 times 1.64 equals a 631. Now people want to know, holy cow, how do you buy valve springs for that? Well, that's another story. We got them. I want to tell you about it. But if you're putting S&S roller rockers into your Milwaukee 8 with this full race cam, I better do that math one more time. That seems a little scary. 0.385. I'm trying to get you to get nervous about it too. Times the S&S rocker ratio, 1.64 equals 631 lift. That's a lot of lift for anybody's valve spring. There is a really cool set of PSI springs that we sell and we had made for us with the right parts to go with it, where we can get up to 631, 640 lift without any problems. But you don't. Next week I'm going to talk to you about coil bind and what happens when you squeeze the spring down to bind height and your camshaft and your rocker arms, your rocker ratio, and your lifter is trying to squeeze it tighter than the spring will go. You're going to end up with some blown up stuff. And a lot of people are buying these big cams and putting this 1.64 rocker ratio in it. And if they do it, and I tell every one of them, anytime you buy it, this must be installed by a professional cylinder head builder. This is not a bolt-in part. If you don't know how to get your engine to rotate with over 630 lift, please proceed with caution. TDC lift. This is where the valves bang on the pistons. It says it has 0.185, 0.176 at valve lift, not at lobe lift. One more time. 0.385. I did it wrong. One cam valve lift, 185. 0.185 valve lift divided by a stock rocker ratio of 1.6 equals 115. That's 115 lobe lift, where this says valve lift. Valve lift is 185. That means the lobe lift is 0.115. Okay, 0.115 times the S&S roller rocker, 1.64 equals. Now we have 1.88. That doesn't sound legit. Let's do it one more time while I'm trying to explain it live. I'm live, you're watching live, and I'm going to flop around like a fish out of water a little bit. So let's go to the valve lift at TDC. That's 0.185. 0.185 divided by a stock rocker ratio of 1.6 equals 0.115 times the S&S rocker ratio of 1.64 equals 188. Okay, so we go from 185 valve lift to 188 valve lift when we go to the big rocker ratio because of the difference between a 160 and a 164. Does everybody understand how we get duration? 68, the valve opens before bottom dead center. 20, it closes after top dead center, plus 180 of the exhaust stroke gives us 260 degrees of duration. Everybody got me? There we go, one more time. 68 and 20. 68 open plus 20 on the closing side plus 180 of exhaust stroke gives us 268. Let's see here. 615, 68 and 20. 68 plus 20 plus 180 equals 268. That's a 268 degrees duration cam. And I always know when I do this, when you do the 50 lift off the seat and the 50 lift back to the seat, add those two numbers together, plus 180 equals the duration of that camshaft. And if this is boring to you, that's okay. We'll talk about something next week that you really like. This week, I'm just telling you how these specs work. We sell this 30-30 cam. It's the most popular camshaft I've ever dreamed of in my life. Thank y'all so much. I'm very thankful that so many people buy this. This is a cam we sell to bolt into stock engines. It gives about, 20 foot-pounds of torque over a stock engine with a pipe and a good tune, and it gives 30-something horsepower over a stock engine with a pipe and a tune. It's really great. It ends up being around 485 lift, timing at 50 lift. These are really conservative numbers. It's 8 and 25. This intake valve opens at 8 degrees before top and closes at 25 after bottom, so it's very short. It only has 213 degrees duration, and if you divide this by 2 and subtract the 8 opening, you end up with only a 98 degree lobe center. That means at 98 degrees after top, you got full lift. That's what that means. This also is very interesting at 303 lift. 303 lift. Lobe lift. Please do not put S&S roller rockers on your 30-30 cam. 0.303 times a stock rocker ratio of 1.6 equals 484 lift. That's what we sell. The stock springs bind up somewhere around 490. If you put the roller rocker, S&S roller rocker in it, you're going to end up with a 0.303 lobe lift times a 1.64, and you're going to end up with 496 lift. So when you put S&S roller rockers in your engine with the 30-30 camshaft and stock springs now, and you go to full lift, the springs are going to stack up solid. That's called bind height when it goes solid. A spring that's solid, instead of looking like it has lots of coils like this is what a solid spring looks like. It's about this tall, and a free link spring is about this tall. So you can actually squeeze the spring all the way down 490 lift on a stock valve spring, and it will squeeze all the way shut. And when that happens, you're going to have a bump in it where it turns over. It's going to wear out the cam lobe. It's going to break the lifters. It's going to break the lifter wheel off. It's going to need cuffs in it because the lifter is going to go up and hit the little stock anti-rotation devices, and the push rod's going to bend really bad, and you ride it and go fast. Parts are going to jump out everywhere, and it's going to make a mess on you, the bike, the highway, and your pocketbook, and you'll be like me trying to race by needing a intercooler on your wallet. My credit card got so hot when I was learning all this stuff, I had to buy intercoolers for my credit card, and Jackie was like, just turn it off. She said, this thing's leaking like a faucet. Turn it off. Thank y'all. I'm trying to teach you about this stuff. I'm trying to help share this information with you so that when you talk about a camshaft, you will be more aware of what these things mean. And if it's so fast, and it went by so fast that it kind of went over your head, I understand. But if you missed this, if you started late, you can watch it. We're going to download this to our YouTube channel. It's Star Racing GA. Also, it will stay on my Facebook page forever. I don't delete it. It just keeps feeding every week. And I wanted to say thank you because this is Tech Talk number 152, and next week will be 153, and we're going to keep doing this, you guys. As long as you guys give me good feedback and follow, thank you. May God bless y'all. Have a great week.